It hurts when somebody says you think you're moving forward, but you're just running in circles. You call it progress because it feels busy, it feels like growth, but really it's the same loop dressed in new details. And this is an uncomfortable truth that many of us have to face at some point in our life because we all go through some kind of loop. Sometimes these loops are big and you don't see them for many, many years, but they repeat over a larger cycle. And sometimes they're small and they happen daily or weekly, and these ones are much easier to spot. But the issue I find is progress because as human beings, we love progress. In fact, we need progress because progress gives us meaning, but that meaning sometimes comes at a cost. And so you may wonder, well, why do I even end up in the same patterns no matter how much I change? And is progress itself, is it even real in my own mind? Or is it a story that my mind tells me to keep me moving forward? And then why do I even feel behind in life? Even when I'm achieving things, I've got stuff in life. I've done all these amazing things, but yet I look at my life and I just think, God, if I could go back to when I was 18 again, I would make so many different decisions and choices. I would be so far ahead of where I am now. Why do I even think like that? So, to answer some of these questions, because they're difficult questions to answer, but why do we always end up in the same patterns is potentially one of the foundational questions. And this is very important. I've seen this a lot. For example, let's say that you see, or maybe you yourself have experienced this. Let's say that you have had a history of bad relationships or relationships with drama, and then you meet a new person, and this person doesn't have the drama that you are used to. And it may even be a very healthy, good relationship. But subconsciously, sometimes, and many people do this, in fact, push people away because they're not used to that relationship, that dynamics in the relationship. They want a little bit of chaos, let's say. Now, I don't believe that these people do this purposefully, or some people don't even know that they're doing this, but it happens. It happens to all of us, and it's not their fault because it's something. Well, I say it's not their fault, but you know what I mean. It's something that we all have inside of us. And so it's very easy to judge from the outside, but then, well, okay, let's say we will say food. So if you're in a position where maybe you're trying to lose a little bit of weight and you start to go to work or you go to see people who know who you are and they say to you, "Oh, wow, you look amazing. You've lost so much weight." And then you start to get attention from people because they notice that you've lost weight. And maybe you're a bit of an introvert and you don't like attention. And so when you feel like that, you could subconsciously start to eat more because you don't like the attention that you're getting, even though you're trying to lose weight. And you go to that comfortable reset period, that period in the loop where you get so far and then you go back to the main cycle, if you see what I mean. You see it a lot in addiction cycles where people are addicted for, let's say, for example, YouTube addiction, because this is one that I'm having a lot of problem with. I am really addicted to YouTube at the moment. And so I'll have periods where I read a book and don't watch YouTube at all. And then all of a sudden, I'll be super tired and watch YouTube. And it's so difficult, but it's part of that cycle. And then this leads us on to the question, well, is progress real? Well, we know that progress is real, obviously, but is it just a story in my mind? Something that I'm telling myself to keep me moving forward, so to speak? And this question touches on another answer that's fairly uncomfortable because we don't like to admit to ourselves that sometimes we do things that we feel is making progress, but it really isn't. And I will use myself as an example. Another thing I'm trying to do right now is to eat healthier food. And one of the first things that I decided to do was to buy an iron skillet. Now, that iron skillet has been in my kitchen for many months, and I've not used it at all. But at the time, I remember purchasing this item and I felt fantastic all day. I felt like, oh, that's good. I made a leap forward. And then in actual fact, I've not used it. I've just spent money. So this shows up in many different ways, but I'm just using that as a simple example to show how sometimes we feel we're making progress in life, but we're not. And so it's easy to understand why we may feel that we're behind in life or not where we want to be. And then there is ancient wisdom and ancient insight. For example, we have the Stoic and Egyptian echoes. They often emphasize that life repeats in patterns until we learn from them. Then we have alchemy. Alchemy talks about transmuting, so where the base patterns are broken down and reforged into something higher, new actions, new behaviors, transmuting the energy into something that you want to do instead of the same loops. And if we look at behavior psychology, they often say that these habit loops dominate 40 to 50% of our daily lives. 50%. So that's like 12 hours in a day. I know obviously we sleep, but you know what I mean? That's crazy. And if you look at your whole life, that's 50% of your life gone to habit loops. They also found that the fear of success and the fear of failure both produced repetitive cycles. And this is often the unconscious reset point. Another uncomfortable truth is that we will not be saved from our own loops. And this is really difficult to accept because most of our life we've been looked after, especially if you come from, a big family and there's always people around you. You have got a lot of close friends. You always got people to care for you and to help you out. But for most of us, nothing's going to happen until we change it. Like we can, and this is what sucks, but we can eat ourselves to death. We can waste all of our life in front of social media. It sounds crazy and scary to think about it, but this is the reality for many people. You kind of look back at life when you're older and you think, why did I do this? Why the hell did I waste all this money and time and energy and yes, you could argue that this is me projecting my own habit loops, but also it's what I would say to somebody who I care about or a close friend because I wouldn't lie to them. I wouldn't say to you, listen, you got these habit loops, you got these things that are going on in your life, and yeah, I know it sucks, but you're going to be okay. Bullshit. Reality is that your life is your life, and you can decide whatever you want to do. You choose potentially subconsciously to do these things that are just not in your best interests and interest. And what I'm trying to do is wake you up and say, hey, you don't have to live like this. I want to thank everybody who has supported this work through donations. It means that I can keep everything free and still give it the time and focus it needs. If you would like to support my work as well, you can find the link below.